Hello. Hello. Hi, JR. That's my son right there. He's our dream for our Bitcoin membership. Yeah. So I want to talk to you guys about how independent Bitcoin education will change the world and how independent Bitcoin is trying to do just that. So I want to start with some proof of work, and then I want to talk about the why, and I want to return to the proof of work to show how we try to apply both, how we try to implement the why into our proof of work. So just a quick rundown of some proof of work. It's actually on the video behind us as well. That is our variety of work graduations and classes. We have taught, so we began in 2021. Our first class, our first students here in Salvador were in September of 2021. It's a future student right there. Since we began, we have taught more than 35,000 students in person in El Salvador. We have developed a 10-week program, a Bitcoin diploma, which we have taught in a variety of places across the country, on the school system, private schools, cafes, our own house. That has been translated into 8 languages and is being taught in at least 30 nations around the world. We also work with the Ministry of Education to help them implement Bitcoin education on a broad scale across the country. And we also host an unconference, a Bitcoin Educators Unconference. Our most recent one was yesterday. Next one will be in Nashville in April. So that's very briefly the proof of work. So now the why. And then here isn't working, so I'm going to try to use the video as the timer for me. So the why. Why are we doing this? So I'm from New York originally, and I was there when the pandemic started. And it really felt like the world was falling apart. Like there was just something. I mean, I had the feeling for a long time that there was something off about the world, but it really came home during the pandemic. And I spent a lot of time on long walks thinking about what was wrong and what we might be able to do to fix it. And for me, what is wrong with the world is we have lost the ability to think for ourselves. In every facet of our life, somebody thinks for us, somebody decides for us. We have lost control of our own future, the ability to define our own destiny. And there's significant second and third order effects to that. If you don't control your money, you don't control your power, you don't control your present, you don't control your future, you're disincentivized to build, to create. So the solution is to flip that, right? To give the control back to the individual, to give sovereignty back to the individual. And if we could do that, then it flips that incentives. Those second and third order effects flip from negative to positive. So with Bitcoin, it incentivizes us to look further into the future. And as we look further into the future, it changes the way that we think about the world. It changes the way that we think about ourselves. We then become incentivized to build, to plan, to create, to study, because not only is there a future, but we could create it, we could define it, we could control it. So I really think that it is so important that we do this and we do this now. There's not an infinite amount of time to do this. We are hurtling towards a cliff and we need to learn how to build wings. And I think Bitcoin education, specifically introductory Bitcoin education, is the first step on that journey. This is such a profound moment in civilization, right? For the first time ever, we have a toolkit to actually do this. I think in many ways, we may be standing at the edge of humanity's first revolution. When we talk about revolution, past revolutions, we're always talking about changing who wields power from one group to the next, rather than group A, group B now is in control. What we have the opportunity to do now with Bitcoin for the next generation, for that guy, we have an opportunity to not just change who is in power, but change our very relationship to power, change how we define power. This is the first revolution ever. We've never been able to do that before. And now we can. This is such a profound opportunity. But it's an opportunity with a lot of obstacles and a lot of risks. We're taking our first steps, right? We're all taking our first steps here in the journey towards Bitcoin, and we're doing a really good job. Sorry. He's got a little Me Premier Bitcoin shirt on too. So it's so important that these first steps stay true to this potential, to this revolutionary potential. Because if the problem is that we have forgotten or we have lost the ability to define our own destiny, to think for ourselves, we really need to guard that. And I think this is actually underappreciated in the Bitcoin space. The revolution is not an app on your phone in your pocket. The revolution is something that happens inside of your mind. It's how you view the world. It's how you view power. It's the ability to think for yourself. So if you are going to think for yourself, if that's the objective, if that's the idea, then that first step that we take needs to embody that, right? So let me go back to the list that I brought up at the start of the proof of work, and let me show you how we're trying to apply that to everything that we do. So the first one that I said was just 35,000 students taught. And we teach our students with a pretty specific philosophy that the education should be interactive, but more than that, we never think for our students. It's always trying to allow them to think for themselves and to arrive at their own conclusions. And the current model of the world today, and this includes Bitcoin education, is to sell a product, right? In this case, the students are the product. So we are mostly community funded. We're majority community funded. We don't take any government money, and we're very, very selective of non-community money that comes in that isn't individuals. Like, we get some grants and all that, but we turn down most money that comes our way because it comes with strings attached. That is what's normal in the world today. That's what's normal in the entire world, and Bitcoin education is no exception to that. We frequently are offered money in exchange for. And that exchange for is usually to make sure a certain product is mentioned, or we steer students in a certain direction. And that is counter-revolutionary, right? We are repeating the same mistakes that got us here if we do that. we are telling students what to think rather than teaching them how to think. And that is harder. That is much harder. But that is the revolution. If we want to create a different future, we need to create a new template in the present. We can't, everything that we've done, the templates that already exist have led us to this moment. So if you, like me, believe that we're on the wrong path, we need to throw them all away and create new ones. And that's what we're trying to do with how we're funded. So on my way here, like literally from our booth, which is at basically the opposite end, I was stopped twice by two different people who, one I see, one I don't see. But somebody stopped me right before I came in here. They said that they loved what we were doing and they're starting a business, they have a farm, and they want to give back to Me Premier Bitcoin. They want to give a % of the profits because they really believe in this. Another person that I saw today, this is all new, although maybe a better example, because you guys maybe are familiar, is if you guys have seen the little orange pills, probably one of you guys have it in the audience. That's just a couple that believes in what we're doing, and they hand knit these orange pills and they sell them and all the profits go to us. And that's how we fund what we're doing. That's how we fund our education. On a long enough timeline, Bitcoin education will be captured by those who fund it. So if corporations are funding Bitcoin education, they will capture it. And they have different interests. They have their own interests. We need to be, and we want to be captured by you, captured by the community. That is the check. If we are not fulfilling the revolutionary potential that is before us, don't donate. If we are, then do donate, right? Like, we want to be held accountable to the community, to Bitcoiners who have been through the journey and see the potential. We don't want to be accountable to corporations or governments. We want to be accountable to you. Everyone has to make that choice. Every organization needs to make the choice. We have chosen the community. The next thing on the list is the Bitcoin diploma and other materials. We also have an intro class. We have other classes as well. The Bitcoin diploma is kind of the flagship product. It's the most well-known. How have we applied the ethos of Bitcoin to that? So we created a independent Bitcoin educators node network. And the idea behind that is that we are more than the sum of our parts, so we want to work with other Bitcoin educators around the world. Everything that we do is open source, right? Open source everything. So the Bitcoin diploma is open source, and we created some consensus rules to join the network. Those consensus rules are that the education must be independent, impartial, community-led, Bitcoin only, quality, and teach empowerment. So long as you agree to those consensus rules, you practice those consensus rules, you could apply to join the network. And thus far, more than 50 projects around the world from more than 30 countries have applied and been accepted to the network. The really, really interesting or special thing about that is we no longer control the network. It is now self-governing. It has created its own governance layer. We actually don't decide when there's a new applicant. We, like Me Premier Bitcoin El Salvador, we don't decide whether they're accepted or rejected. We're one node in the network. We're the Genesis node, but we're one node in the network. And so much of this is on the map behind me, is the node network. Each dot represents a node in the network. So this is how we're scaling. We're scaling by giving up control. Because we all have a choice. You could either have control over or you could empower. And the revolution is to empower. We've lived in the entirety of human history with having control over. This is our opportunity to change that once and to change it forever. So I'll try to go through the rest of them quick. We also work with the Ministry of Education. We have a couple of programs with them. One of them is the Bitcoin Diploma, but the other one is with the Little Hodler. We're developing some content for younger audiences that will hopefully be piloted in the public school system next year. So second grade, third grade, fourth grade, that sort of age. And as I said, we never take money from governments. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to create this curriculum. We're going to have to train teachers. We're going to have to send teachers around the country to follow up, quality control, all that. But it's important, right? It's important that we get it right. It's important that we all do this together. So our ask, when they invited us to participate in this, our ask wasn't for money. Our ask was, and they've accepted this, was everything that we create needs to be open source. Everything that is used for Bitcoin education here in El Salvador needs to be accessible for the whole world, no cost, no restrictions, no barrier to entry, and they agreed to that, right? Which is, as far as I know, the first time in the world that a government is creating an open source curriculum. We also, with the same sort of philosophy, the unconference that we have, it was our fourth one yesterday. We've been doing it for about a year, and it's a Bitcoin conference with a focus on education, but it's also a different format to try to empower people. It's kind of a decentralized format where everybody there gets to decide the schedule at the start of the day. They get to participate. And yesterday, we open sourced that as well. As part of the unconference, we had a literal session to teach people how to run their own unconference. Again, the question before us is, are we in control of our own life, or is someone else? Mi Primer Bitcoin is a grand experiment in pushing the limits of what's possible today in order to reimagine what's possible tomorrow. Because if we are going to change the world, and we will, we are, we need to do things differently, and it will be harder. It is so much harder to do things differently. It is so much easier to follow the established template, to find success by their standards. We would rather fail trying to change the world than succeed in this one. So this is a choice that we all have. We need to be active in defining our own future. When I say empowerment, it's not just for the students, it's for us, it's for everyone, right? So if you believe that a better world is possible, then you have a responsibility to help create it. That's exactly what we're trying to do with Mi Primer Bitcoin. And again, we live and die by the community, so really want to thank everyone here for supporting us, because without that, none of this would be possible. So thank you to everybody here. Thank you to JR. He's the literal representation of why I'm doing this. We create revolution by living it. Thank you.